The storm had swallowed the highway whole, rain slashing sideways across the windshield, thunder rolling like artillery fire in the distance. Officer Daniel Mercer gripped the wheel tighter, his patrol car trembling against the wind. He was alone on that rural stretch, miles from the nearest town, when a shape lunged into his headlights. Tires screamed. The car skidded to a halt. A German shepherd stood in the beam, soaked, unyielding, eyes locked on him with a strange urgency. Mercer's pulse hammered. Dogs didn't stop cars in storms. Not unless someone, needed saving. If you're drawn into this kind of suspense, consider subscribing. You'll never miss the next story. The wipers beat furiously, but the storm was winning. Daniel Mercer leaned forward, squinting through the blur of water and lightning. The dog hadn't moved. Its chest rose and fell in quick bursts, fur plastered to its ribs, tail rigid. Mercer's hand hovered over the radio, but instinct told him this wasn't a call for backup. This was personal. He opened the door. The wind slapped him, cold needles of rain soaking his uniform in seconds. "Hey, boy," he called, voice nearly swallowed by the storm. The shepherd barked once, sharp, commanding. Then it turned, sprinting into the darkness beyond the road. Mercer hesitated. Protocol said stay with the car. But protocol didn't account for a dog that looked him dead in the eye like it had a mission. He grabbed his flashlight, slammed the door, and followed. The ground was mud, sucking at his boots. Branches clawed at his arms as he pushed through the roadside brush. The beam of his flashlight caught the shepherd's flank ahead, glistening wet, darting between trees. "Slow down," Mercer shouted, but the dog didn't. Then he saw it. A faint glow through the storm, headlights, but not moving. A vehicle lay tilted in the ditch, nose buried against a tree. The shepherd stopped beside it, barking furiously. Mercer's chest tightened. He scrambled down the slope, mud sliding under his boots. The car was an old sedan, windshield spiderwebbed, hood crumpled. He shone the light inside. A woman. Motionless. Mercer yanked the door handle. It resisted, bent from the crash. He slammed his shoulder against it until it gave. The smell of gasoline and blood hit him. "Ma'am." His voice cracked. He reached for her pulse. Faint. The shepherd whined, pawing at the ground. Mercer pulled his radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Mercer. I've got a single vehicle accident off County Road 12. Female driver, unconscious, pulse weak. Send EMS immediately." Static hissed back. The storm was killing the signal. "Damn it." He checked her again. Blonde hair matted with blood, a gash across her temple. But her chest rose. She was alive. The shepherd barked, then darted to the back seat. Mercer swung the light. His stomach dropped. A child. The boy couldn't have been more than 6. Curled in the corner, eyes wide, lips trembling. "Hey, buddy," Mercer said softly, crouching. "It's okay. I'm here." The boy flinched, clutching a stuffed bear. Mercer reached in, careful. "I'm not gonna hurt you." The shepherd pressed close, as if guarding the child. Finally, the boy whispered, "Mommy." "She's right here," Mercer said. "She's hurt, but she's breathing. We need to get you both out." The boy's eyes flicked to the shepherd. "Max won't leave." Mercer swallowed. "Max is smart. He brought me here." The boy nodded, trusting the dog more than him. Mercer pulled the boy free, cradling him against his chest. The shepherd stayed glued to his side. He laid the child on the grass, then returned for the woman. She was heavier, limp, but adrenaline gave him strength. He dragged her clear of the wreck. The storm roared. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the scene in violent flashes. Mercer knelt, checking her again. Pulse weaker. He pressed his jacket against her wound, praying EMS would find them. The boy sobbed quietly, clutching Max. Mercer's mind raced. Why had the car gone off the road? No skid marks. No sign of braking. It looked deliberate, or forced. He scanned the trees. Darkness pressed in, but something about it felt wrong. Watching. Minutes crawled. The woman stirred faintly, whispering something Mercer couldn't catch. He leaned close. "Not Accident. Her eyes fluttered, then closed again. Mercer froze. Not an accident. The shepherd growled low, ears pricked toward the woods. Mercer swung his flashlight. Nothing but rain and branches. Still, the unease gnawed at him. He pulled the boy closer. "We'll be okay," he murmured, though he wasn't sure. The storm wasn't the only danger out here. The sound came suddenly, a crack of wood, heavy footsteps in the mud. Mercer rose, hand on his holster. "Who's there?" Silence. The shepherd snarled, teeth bared. Mercer's pulse hammered. He swept the beam across the trees. For a split second, he saw movement, a figure retreating deeper into the woods. Then gone. He turned back to the boy, forcing calm. "Stay close to Max." The boy nodded, eyes wide. Mercer crouched by the woman again. Her breathing was shallow. He couldn't wait for EMS. He had to move them. But the ditch was steep, the mud treacherous. Carrying both was impossible. He looked at Max. The dog's eyes met his, steady, almost human. "Guard them," Mercer whispered. He sprinted up the slope, fighting the mud, reaching his patrol car. He popped the trunk, grabbed the emergency kit, and slid back down. He worked quickly, bandaging her head, wrapping her arm. Not perfect, but enough to slow the bleeding. The boy clung to Max, whispering into his fur. Mercer's mind replayed her words. Not an accident. Someone had forced them off the road. And whoever it was might still be out there. The storm began to ease, thunder rolling farther away. Mercer tried the radio again. Static, then a faint voice. "Mercer, repeat." Relief surged. "Dispatch, I've got 2 injured civilians, 1 adult female, 1 child. Vehicle crash, possible foul play. Send EMS and backup to County Road 12, mile marker 47. The line crackled, then cleared. "Copy that. Units en route." Mercer exhaled. Help was coming. But as he turned, the shepherd barked sharply again, warning. Mercer swung the light. A man stood at the edge of the trees. He was tall, broad-shouldered, soaked in rain. His face shadowed, but his stance was unmistakable, watching them. Mercer drew his weapon. "Police. Step forward, hands where I can see them." The man didn't move. The shepherd lunged, snarling. Then, as lightning flashed, Mercer saw the man's eyes. Cold. Unflinching. And then he vanished into the woods. Mercer's gut twisted. Whoever that was, he wasn't random. He was connected. The woman's words echoed again. Not an accident. Mercer tightened his grip on the gun, scanning the trees. The boy whimpered. Max pressed against him protectively. Mercer knew one thing. This storm had dragged him into something far darker than a crash. And it was only beginning. The storm had thinned to a steady drizzle, but the woods still breathed menace. Officer Daniel Mercer stood rigid, gun drawn, scanning the tree line where the man had vanished. The shepherd, Max, remained bristled, hackles raised, a low growl vibrating in his chest. The boy clung to the dog's neck, silent tears streaking his cheeks. Mercer's training told him to secure the scene, wait for backup. But his gut screamed that waiting meant danger. Whoever had forced that car off the road wasn't finished. He crouched beside the woman again. Her pulse was faint, her skin clammy. She needed a hospital, fast. "Hang on," he whispered, though he wasn't sure she could hear. The boy's voice broke the silence. "He was following us." Mercer turned sharply. "Who?" The boy's eyes darted toward the woods. "The man. Mommy said he was bad." Mercer's stomach knotted. This wasn't random. The arrival. Red and blue lights finally pierced the rain-soaked night. Relief surged as 2 patrol cars pulled onto the shoulder above the ditch. Mercer waved them down, shouting over the storm. 2 deputies scrambled down, one carrying a medical kit. "Jesus, Mercer, what happened?" "Single vehicle crash," Mercer said quickly. "Female driver, head trauma. Child passenger. Possible foul play. Someone was here." The deputies exchanged uneasy glances but didn't argue. One began tending to the woman, the other radioed for EMS. Mercer scanned the woods again. Nothing. But the unease lingered. The hospital. Hours later, the storm had passed, leaving the town of Ashford soaked and silent. The hospital's fluorescent lights buzzed faintly as Mercer paced the corridor outside the ER. The boy sat nearby, Max curled protectively at his feet. The doctor emerged, pulling off gloves. She's stable for now. Severe concussion, blood loss. We'll keep her under observation. Mercer exhaled. Will she wake up? Too early to say. But she's strong. The boy's eyes lifted hopefully. Mercer crouched beside him. Your mom's fighting. She'll need you to be brave. The boy nodded, clutching Max tighter. The questions. Detective Laura Hayes arrived not long after. Tall, sharp-eyed, with a reputation for cutting through lies. Mercer respected her, but she had a way of making allies feel like suspects. She pulled him aside. Walk me through it. Mercer recounted everything, the dog stopping his car, the wreck, the woman's words, the man in the woods. Hayes frowned. You're sure you saw someone? Positive. And the woman said it wasn't an accident? Mercer nodded. Hayes tapped her pen against her notebook. Strange thing is, the car's brake line was cut. Clean slice. Not storm damage. Mercer's chest tightened. So it was sabotage. Hayes's gaze sharpened. Which means someone wanted her dead. The woman's name. By morning, the woman's identity was confirmed. Claire Donovan. 32. Local schoolteacher. No criminal record, no enemies on paper. But Hayes dug deeper. She filed a restraining order 6 months ago. Against her ex-husband. Name's Richard Donovan. Mercer felt the chill return. That's who I saw. Hayes raised a brow. You're certain? Mercer hesitated. The storm had blurred everything, but the man's build, his stare, it fit. Hayes closed her notebook. If Richard's back in town, we've got a problem. The boy speaks. Later, Mercer sat with the boy in the hospital cafeteria. The child picked at a muffin, Max lying under the table. What's your name, buddy? Mercer asked gently. Ethan. Mercer smiled faintly. That's a strong name. Ethan's voice was small. Daddy was angry. Mommy said we had to leave. Mercer leaned closer. Did Daddy hurt her? Ethan's eyes filled with tears. He nodded. Mercer's jaw tightened. Richard Donovan wasn't just angry, he was dangerous. The betrayal. That evening, Hayes called Mercer into her office. Files were spread across her desk, photos clipped to reports. Richard Donovan vanished after the divorce, she said. No address, no job. But look at this. She slid a photo across. Richard, standing beside a man Mercer recognized instantly, Sheriff Tom Granger. Mercer's stomach dropped. Granger. Hayes's eyes were cold. They served together in the army. Old friends. And Granger never disclosed it. Mercer felt the betrayal like a punch. Granger was his mentor, the man who'd vouched for him when he joined the force. Hayes leaned back. If Granger's protecting Richard, we're in deeper than we thought. The confrontation. Mercer found Granger in his office, the sheriff's badge gleaming under the lamp. You knew Richard was back, Mercer said flatly. Granger's jaw tightened. Careful, son. Don't son me. Claire's car was sabotaged. Her kid saw Richard. And you, Mercer's voice cracked with anger. You covered for him. Granger's eyes hardened. Richard's been through hell. He's not the monster you think. He tried to kill his ex-wife. Granger slammed his fist on the desk. You don't understand. He saved my life overseas. I owe him. Mercer stared, disbelief curdling into rage. You owe him. What about Claire? What about Ethan? Granger's silence was answer enough. The twist. That night, Mercer drove home restless, fury boiling in his chest. He couldn't trust his own sheriff. As he pulled into his driveway, headlights flared behind him. A truck idled at the curb. Mercer's hand went to his holster. He stepped out, rain dripping from the eaves. The truck door opened. Richard Donovan stepped into the glow. "Officer Mercer," Richard said calmly, almost polite. "We need to talk." Mercer raised his gun. "You've got nothing to say I want to hear." Richard's smile was chilling. "You think you know the truth. But Claire, she's not who you think she is." Mercer's pulse hammered. "What are you talking about?" Richard's eyes gleamed. "Ask her about the money. Ask her why she ran. She's not the victim you believe." Mercer's grip faltered. Doubt slithered in. Richard stepped closer. "I didn't cut those brakes. Someone else wants her gone. And if you don't stop digging, they'll come for you too." The cliffhanger. Max's bark shattered the moment. The shepherd lunged from the shadows, teeth bared. Richard stumbled back, retreating to his truck. "Think about it, officer," he called, before slamming the door and roaring away into the night. Mercer stood frozen, gun trembling in his hand. Claire wasn't the victim? Someone else wanted her dead? The storm had passed, but the darkness was only deepening. And Mercer knew, whatever truth lay buried in Ashford, it was about to tear the town apart. The awakening. Claire Donovan woke with a gasp, the hospital room dim except for the glow of a single lamp. Her head throbbed, memories fractured. The first thing she saw was Ethan curled in the chair, Max at his feet. Relief washed over her. He was safe. Then she noticed Daniel Mercer in the corner, watching her with a steady gaze. "You're awake," he said quietly. Claire's voice was hoarse. "Where's Richard?" Mercer leaned forward. "That's what I need to ask you. He claims he didn't cut the brakes. He says someone else wants you dead." Claire's eyes darkened. "He's lying. He always lies." But Mercer caught the flicker of hesitation in her face. The confession. Later, when Ethan was asleep, Claire spoke in a whisper. "There's money," she admitted. "A lot of it. I found out Richard was laundering cash through a shell company. When I confronted him, he snapped. That's why I left." Mercer frowned. "How much money?" "Millions. Hidden offshore. I thought if I ran, he'd let me go. But he wants it back. He thinks I know where it is." Mercer's pulse quickened. This wasn't just domestic violence, it was organized crime. Claire's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know who else is involved. But Richard isn't working alone." The betrayal deepens. Detective Hayes confirmed the worst. "The accounts Claire mentioned? They're tied to a construction company, Ashford Development. Guess who owns it?" Mercer's stomach sank. "Sheriff Granger." Hayes nodded grimly. "He's been laundering money with Richard for years. Claire stumbled onto it. That's why they want her gone." Mercer felt the ground shift beneath him. His mentor, the man he trusted most, was part of it. Hayes's voice was sharp. "We need evidence. Without it, Granger buries this whole thing." Mercer clenched his fists. "Then we get evidence." The trap. That night, Mercer drove to the old sawmill on the edge of town, a place Richard had used before. Hayes followed in another car. The mill loomed, abandoned, its windows shattered, roof sagging. But inside, light flickered. Mercer crept closer, Max at his side. Through a crack in the boards, he saw Richard and Granger arguing. "You said she was dead," Granger snarled. Richard's voice was cold. "You should have finished it yourself." Granger slammed a fist against the table. "If she talks, we're done." Mercer's heart pounded. He had them. But then the floor creaked beneath him. The ambush. Richard's head snapped up. "We're not alone." Mercer cursed under his breath. He raised his gun, but shadows moved fast. Two men emerged from the dark, armed, hired muscle. Hayes burst in from the side, weapon drawn. "Police! Drop it!" Chaos erupted. Gunfire cracked, splinters flying. Max lunged at one of the men, teeth sinking into his arm. Mercer fired, dropping the other. Granger bolted for the back door. Richard followed. Mercer chased, adrenaline burning. The showdown. Outside, rain slicked the gravel. Granger stumbled, Mercer closing in. "Stop!" Mercer shouted. Granger turned, gun raised. His face was twisted with rage. "You don't understand, Daniel. This town needed me. I kept it alive. That money built everything." Mercer's voice shook. "You built it on lies. On blood." Granger sneered. "You think anyone cares? They'll thank me when it's done." He fired. Mercer dove, the bullet grazing his shoulder. He rolled, returned fire. Granger fell, clutching his chest, eyes wide with disbelief. Richard froze, staring at his fallen ally. Then he dropped his gun, hands raised. The twist revealed. Richard's voice was eerily calm. "You think you've won. But Claire isn't innocent. She took the money. She hid it. That's why I came back." Mercer's breath caught. "What?" Richard's smile was bitter. "She played you. She played everyone. Ask her where the accounts are. She's not the victim, you are." Hayes cuffed him, but doubt gnawed at Mercer's mind. The choice. Back at the hospital, Mercer confronted Claire. "Richard says you took the money." Claire's face went pale. She looked away. Mercer's chest tightened. "Is it true?" Tears slid down her cheeks. "I didn't mean to. I thought if I had it, I could protect Ethan. I wanted to disappear, start over. But Richard found me." Mercer's heart sank. She wasn't innocent. But she wasn't evil either. Just desperate. The resolution. Richard was charged, Granger's corruption exposed. The town reeled, trust shattered. Claire faced trial for fraud, but Mercer testified to her courage, her attempt to protect her son. The court showed mercy. Ethan stayed with her, Max never leaving his side. Mercer returned to his patrol car one quiet evening, the storm long gone. He sat behind the wheel, staring at the empty road. The shepherd had stopped him that night, forcing him into a truth he never wanted to see. Ashford would never be the same. Neither would he. Epilogue. Weeks later, Mercer visited Claire and Ethan. The boy ran to him, Max bounding happily. Claire met his eyes, gratitude and regret mingling. "Thank you," she whispered. Mercer nodded. "Take care of him." As he walked away, the wind stirred the pines, carrying the faint echo of that storm. A German shepherd had stopped his car. And what he was protecting had changed everything.